taking suggestions. Hi, Blair. Hey, Vic. We'll be taking suggestions every week on what it is that you would like to get out of these readings. As a collective, we're all in this together. We can all heal together. Pop on in. Feel free to give me a little wave. Give me any feedback. If you have any questions as the readings go on, feel free to type them out. I'll get you set up here. We asked what people would like to get out of today's reading, and the overwhelming response was that people just wanted a little bit of groundedness, some clarity, and some peace of mind. There are a lot of chaotic feelings swarming around right now, and it can be hard to cope with them all at the same time, while we're also having to sit with ourselves a lot more during this time of quarantining and social distancing. There can be a lot of conflicting emotions that we're feeling. It's a scary time. It can be a restful time. Maybe we're still working and we're feeling stressed and afraid. Maybe we're not able to work right now, and maybe we're feeling a little bored, maybe a little anxious. Maybe we're actually enjoying feeling quarantined, and then maybe there's a little bit of guilt that comes up in actually feeling joy in a time that for other people is really frightening, and people feel alone. So we can connect on all of those and just allow ourselves to feel all of the things that we're feeling right now, because it is really confusing. It is totally okay that we're jumping between all of these different kinds of emotions. So maybe we can just start off today taking some breaths together, acknowledging that we're feeling such a unique, strange mixture of feelings right now that we're not accustomed to having to deal with on a daily basis. So maybe we can start off with just grounding ourselves a little bit before we see what the cards have to tell us. We'll take some deep breaths together, and as we're taking breaths in, we'll send the message to ourselves: it's okay to feel whatever I'm feeling. However I am processing those feelings right now is okay. Just allow ourselves to surrender to what is going through our bodies, what is energetically flowing through us right now. Just surrender to them and know that it's okay, whatever we're feeling. So we'll send that message of surrender and acceptance and self-compassion as we do some 4, 7, 8 breaths. So it'll be 4 counts of breathing in, 7 counts of holding the breath in your lungs, and imagine that breath just spreading through to all of your extremities, and then 8 counts of slowly breathing out. And we'll imagine as we're breathing out that we're expelling whatever is not actually serving us from our bodies. We release it. So we'll all start together. For 4 counts, we'll breathe in. And for 7, we're going to hold that air full in our lungs. And for 8, breathe out everything that your body is holding on to that is stagnant, that is not serving us. Imagine that you're breathing out and it's flowing into the core of the earth, where it's being recycled and reborn into something that will serve the greater collective in a positive way. We'll do that 2 more times. So again, 4 counts of breathing in. 7 counts of holding that breath full in your lungs. And for 8, relax your body and breathe out everything that is not serving you. And we'll do that one final time. Thank you everyone for joining. For everyone who just came in, we're going to do one more count of 4, 7, 8 breathing, where we are sending, as we breathe in, the message to our bodies: everything that I'm feeling is okay. Every way that I am manifesting as a means of processing what I'm feeling is okay. And on the exhale, we're releasing everything that doesn't serve us. So one more count of 4 breaths in. 7, hold that breath in your lungs. Imagine it's flowing out to your body, sending pure white light. And for 8, Expel everything, breathe out everything that is making you feel stressed, stagnant, stuck, worried. Breathe it out into the earth. The earth is a very powerful force. Mother Nature is reabsorbing that energy, and she's recycling it into something better for the collective. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I miss seeing you all face to face, but I'm glad you're here with me today. If you're just joining, we asked what people would like to get out of this reading today, and the overwhelming message was that we feel as a collective like we're processing so many conflicting emotions right now, and it feels chaotic, and it feels heavy, and it feels confusing, and it feels scary. And we wanted a reading around how can we bring ourselves some peace of mind? How can we stay grounded when we feel like we're sort of being pulled in many different directions by all the things we're feeling right now? So today's reading, we're going to do a really simple reading, a 3-card spread, where we are going to ask the universe for some guidance. Maybe some guides will come up in the cards today. We're going to ask for some kind of guidance on how can we keep ourselves grounded in the day-to-day, surrender to what we're feeling, but not feel like we're being pulled under by our emotions. How do we stay afloat and keep some peace of mind when we're not always feeling so peaceful right now? So today I'm going to be using the standard Rider-Waite tarot deck, and I'll be explaining in depth what each card means, especially in the position that it falls in. So if you're already very familiar with tarot, bear with me as I give some in-depth explanation to everything. I've got my little makeshift altar here that I'll show you. We've got all the elements represented. Earth, I've got my little jar of sand here. Earth, wind, fire, water. We've got some cosmic sound here. So this is also a really great time to practice. Oh, good. All right. Blair, you don't have to know anything about tarot. It's great. I'll talk you through all of it. So this is a great time to, if you don't already have an at-home practice that you're feeding daily, this is a really great time while a lot of us are in our houses for the foreseeable future. Set up your own little altar at home, and it can include anything that resonates with you. Some things that represent earth, water, things that bring joy to you and make you feel happy. I love these. I love anything that can be incorporated that has like a beautiful sound to it. I like to try to pull in all the elements, and it's a place where I can come to every day, burn some incense, do some breath work, and talk to my ancestors, pull in my guides, ask the universe for help, where I can come and try to ground myself every day, especially in these times when it can be really hard to feel grounded. And tarot is a great way to do that. So for people who are not familiar with tarot at all, my sister and I do Reiki work, which is dealing with energy, and we're tapping into energies of the people we're working with to see what kind of messages come out, that our bodies and our energies speak a language that sometimes we need sort of an interpreter to help us pull out and understand what exactly it's saying, or it can feel a little lost on us. So tarot is a really great way to do that, because each card has its own meaning, and depending on how we lay out the cards, what sort of spread we're using, there's then a meaning on top of that depending on where that card falls. So we can ask very specific questions. You want to, when you're doing tarot, you want to try and stay away from yes or no questions as much as you can, because there are no cards for yes or no, really. You want to ask more questions where the meaning can be sort of pulled out in a more broad way, where it's not as simple as like, oh, okay, I wanted to know if I should do this or not. That's a yes. It's a little more intricate than that, but tarot is a really cool thing that you can study on your own in this time. If you have any interest in it, you can order yourself a tarot deck, study what all the cards mean, and form a relationship with your deck, because there's really... I've had tarot readings from many different people, and everybody kind of has their own style. My style is a little different from the way that my sister will do a reading. You can catch her reading next Sunday at noon. So yeah, it's just something to feel into, and it's a learning experience and letting your intuition guide you and trusting what your intuition is telling you. Start off with clearing my deck. And so for all of you watching at home right now, I know you're not here with me, I wish you were, but just imagine that you are sending your energy into this deck of cards. And even if you have your own question that strays a little bit from the question we're asking today, that's totally fine too. The message that we are trying to convene with the universe around today is, how do we find a sense of groundedness, stillness, peace of mind, and even joy in what we're moving through right now as things feel really chaotic and unsure. So if you'd like to join me in closing your eyes and just imagine that all of those thoughts and questions and feelings you're holding within you, you're sending it through time and space to me, and you're sending that energy directly into this deck of cards. So we'll just close our eyes for a few moments, and you can do that with me. Okay, and I just kind of trust my intuition when I feel like the cards are ready. I could feel a lot of energy coming through into these cards, so thank you for everyone who's joining us right now and sending your energy into these cards with us. I can feel all of it. We're going to do a really simple spread, 3-card spread that is one of my sister's favorites to do that I really love. It's a 3-card spread where the positioning is going to be where we are and how we get to where we're going. So we'll flip these one by one, and we'll take a more in-depth look at what each card means on its own, and then what it means in relation to the place where it's just been put. So the first card we placed was where we are right now. So this is going to speak to the energy that we're all moving through and dealing with in this moment. And this is an inverted King of Swords. So I'll show you. This is what the King of Swords looks like. This is what he looks like inverted. So when a card shows up in a reading inverted, it has a different meaning than if it showed right side up. It typically speaks to something that is getting in the way of achieving the energy of that card if it had manifested right side up. Speaking to some kind of blockage that we're feeling or something that we need to draw our attention to work through. So the King of Swords, if he were right side up, Swords is the suit that speaks to the mind. It's our powers to analyze, use our brain functions to work through things, our sense of logic, making a plan. The King of Swords is the king of all of that. So he is a very quick-witted, analytical, very intelligent character. The fact that he is inverted right now shows that maybe we're having a little bit of trouble wrapping our brains around what is happening, and doesn't that make sense? Where we are right now is that we are trying to move logically through something that doesn't feel logical. So that shows that as a society, I think this definitely speaks to, especially having grown up in a Western culture. I think everyone here is in the US who's joining us right now. As a culture, we are taught to rely on the mind, to trust logic and fact, and there is absolutely a place for that, and it's not wrong, but we are taught to trust that over any other sense of wisdom that we also hold in the body. So the mind has a way of knowing. The heart also has a way of knowing. Our intuition also has a way of knowing. We energetically feel things sometimes that our brain is not able to sort through or make sense of. And so when we are so accustomed to solely relying on the mind, it can feel really confusing and frustrating and conflicting to try to logically make sense of something when we're feeling so many other things around it that don't match up with that sense of logic. So right now, this inverted King of Swords is showing that we're feeling frustrated, we're feeling like we can't fully understand what's happening. Maybe we're focused so much on the hard facts of what's going on. When is this going to end? How am I going to get through this if I'm not still having a paycheck? These are all very understandable. It's valid that we're here right now. The rest of the reading is going to show us what we're moving towards, because while this is a very valid place to be, it's not necessarily the energy that we want to stay in right now, because we can learn about ourselves as maybe in this time, if we're fortunate enough to be at home and not having to work right now, we're getting to spend a lot more time with ourselves, which can be a really complicated and not so fun process sometimes. But the beauty in that is that we can learn all of the intricacies of the ways that we operate when we are so busy with our daily lives, as they usually are outside of a quarantine. We tend to be caught up in the flow of things and just operate in one way, typically very guided by our minds. And this is a time to tap into the other wisdom that lies within our body now that we have some stillness, if we are fortunate enough to have this time of stillness right now. So where we are is the inverted King of Swords. The next card we're going to look at is the How We Get card. The How We Get to Where We're Going is the next two cards we're going to look at. So this card, the How We Get There, is going to be the energy that is helping to move us towards what this third card will be. We'll look at the second card first. So the second card is in the Wand suit. So that is the Four of Wands. Again, this was inverted. So the Four of Wands, if it were upright, the Wands is the suit that represents our fire, our intuition, our way of knowing that does not rely on the mind, it relies on our gut feeling. This is the suit that inspires our creativity. The Four of Wands, if it were upright, you can see that there are several characters here sort of celebrating together. It's a very joyful card, and it represents togetherness and group celebration. It's like a little joke from the universe that it's inverted right now, because we're not really able to get together in groups right now. Many of us are not able to. If we're fortunate enough to live with some roommates, as I am, I'm very, very lucky. I love all the people I live with. We are still able to have that sense of togetherness and group celebration. But on the whole, with what's going on around the world right now, we're not able to achieve this. We are, in fact, being told to stay away from this with social distancing. So this card showing up inverted is showing that the energy that's going to move us forward right now is actually not looking for a group necessarily to convene with. That points to the need for some solitude, some inner reflection. It's not to say that you can't still have group togetherness. There are so many inventive ways that we're coming up with now to still have a sense of community and still stay tied to one another. Hi, thank you everyone for joining. What this is pointing to is that perhaps in our lives as they were pre-quarantine, pre-social distancing, maybe we were seeking out that feeling of group togetherness more often than we were seeking out solitude. So this is pointing to the fact that since this is inverted, it points to less of a group mindset and more of a, okay, how am I going to get this same feeling of joy, and togetherness internally rather than focusing on the external world. And again, that's not to say that we can't still have our feelings of community and connection with one another. Those are also vital. But this being the energy moving us forward is definitely pointing to some time with ourselves. And that's really our own thing to sit with and think of, how does that make us feel? When we think of the idea of really sitting with ourselves, not just being alone, but really being with ourselves. Taking time to journal about how we're feeling, draw about how we're feeling, dance about how we're feeling, however we want to process our emotions, but really reflecting on, what is this making me feel? Rather than seeking out those outside sources of distraction. Again, not to mean that those sources of distraction are a bad thing, but when we don't have them anymore, where does that leave us with ourselves? Is that a scary thing? Is that a joyful thing? Is this feeling like an abundant opportunity to be with ourselves that we don't have normally in our day-to-day lives when we're rushing and we have schedules? So the energy that's going to be moving us forward out of this mindset where we are very much controlled by the mind and trying to think logically about what's going on, this solitude and this going inside is the energy that's going to move us forward. And so the final card is going to reveal energetically, what are we moving towards right now in this time? Makes me so happy that it was this card. The High Priestess. You can see that lovely lady here is one of my absolute, I try not to play favorites with my tarot cards because they're all really great. They all have a really wonderful deep meaning, but I love the High Priestess. She's one of my favorites. The energy we are moving towards right now, the High Priestess is the absolute ruler of all things internal. So to give you an idea, the High Priestess has a counterpart in the deck who is a male figure, and he is the Hierophant. So he represents dogma, religion, having an order to the way things are done. The High Priestess casts all that aside, and she says, your wisdom is inside of you, and you don't need anybody else to explain to you what's going on. You don't need permission from a middleman to reach a higher power. You don't need a set of rules to figure out how to be in touch with your intuition. She says all of the wisdom is already inside of you. You can see she has a crescent moon at her feet. So she is all about you being your own connection with a higher power. And that's not to say you can't use tools to help you get there, but especially, I don't know about anyone who's tuning in right now, but having been raised in a religion that had rules and told you you have to go through this person to get to God or the universe or whatever you want to call your association with a higher power. The High Priestess is a very self-empowering character who says, you don't need any of that. You already have all of this inside of you. Hi, Colleen. Thanks for joining. So she's incredibly self-empowered, and she is also deeply in tune with what her intuition is telling her, and she's very trusting in that. She trusts that her intuition is her ultimate guide. So in total, we'll go through this spread of cards again. Where we are and how we get to where we're going. Where we are right now is the inverted King of Swords. Do love a High Priestess call. She's my fave. The inverted King of Swords is where we are right now, which is pointing to maybe we're trying to logically, analytically make our way through something that the mind is not able to fully wrap itself around right now, and we need to be getting in tune with the other kinds of wisdom that exist within our bodies, within our energetic fields, and not rely so much on the mind, which can tend to take things a little too far, be overly analytical, and go down a fear spiral that we have a hard time getting out of. So the mind right now needs to be told, you don't need to run the show. You might not fully grasp what's going on, because the energy that's moving us away from the inverted King of Swords is solitude. is not seeking external distraction, allowing for all of the feelings that come with us sitting with ourselves, and not just sitting alone, but really sitting with ourselves. And how can that become a celebratory thing in the absence of a larger group? That energy is going to move us towards the High Priestess energy. And she is, for anyone just tuning in, the High Priestess is the absolute ruler of her inner domain. She casts aside any sense of right and wrong with how we connect with universal wisdom, any sense of you have to follow these certain rules or you have to go through this certain person to get to your higher power. She says your wisdom lies within you. And she's only going to be something that we can tap into because we all have the High Priestess within ourselves. We're only able to fully access her and tap into her and be her if we really sit with ourselves. And in that way, this time can be a real gift if we are so lucky to be at home right now. And even if we're not, we can help send this energy to the people who are still having to work right now, who are kind of on the front lines and endangering their own health to help ensure our health. We can use this time guilt-free to sit with ourselves if we do have the privilege of having the time and space to sit with ourselves right now. We don't need to feel guilty about that, but we can, and we maybe have a responsibility towards acknowledging what a gift that is, that we have the space to really commune with ourselves and tap into this High Priestess energy where she's saying the wisdom is inside of you. The way through this is already inside of you. Sit with yourself so you can hear what your intuition has to say to you. Because only if we're able to sit with ourselves and really tap into that healing energy are we able to send that energy out to others, and that's then a gift to others too. So yeah, feel free to type out if you have any questions, if there was anything else you wanted to ask about the cards that were pulled or the position that they're in. So happy to see you all here today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, we will be doing these free communal tarot readings every Sunday at noon. Next week will be Allie conducting the tarot reading every Sunday at noon. So, and a few days before each reading, we will be posting a little questionnaire so that you can let us know, is there anything in particular that you're moving through this week that you need some help with, that you would like to throw out to the universe? Because it's totally okay right now to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I really need help. I totally surrender to the fact that this feels chaotic and I don't get it. That's totally okay. And Tarot's here to help us out with that. So tune in next Sunday at noon for Allie's reading. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you all so much for being here. I love you all so much. Give yourselves just a tremendous amount of self-compassion in these weeks, however long we're in quarantine. It's okay if your life doesn't look anything like how it looked a few weeks ago. It's understandable. Give yourself so much love and so much allowance to just feel whatever you're feeling. We are always here for you. Love you all so much.